So, a few weeks ago, I compared the Chase Sapphire Preferred to the Ink Preferred and how I thought that Ink card could actually give me even more value than I'm getting right now, currently on my CSP. And at the very end of that video, unfortunately, when I went to apply, I was denied. But after calling Chase's reconsideration line over 4 times, I finally was approved for the Ink Business Preferred. Quite honestly, going into this application, I knew that there was a very strong chance of me getting denied, given the fact that I do currently have the Ink Unlimited. I am technically at Chase's 524 status, which includes my Amex Gold card, which I am an authorized user on, or just the number of applications that I've had over just the last 6 months. Going into this application through Experian, my credit score was 740 with a utilization of about 4%, my average age of account sitting at about 5 years or so, and my number of recent inquiries sitting at 5. And also on top of that, there was a report back in November of 2024 from the Doctor of Credit talking about some of the recent data points around getting approved for additional Chase Ink cards. As you can see from this article, it talks about how Chase has been tightening up more approvals on applications for the different Ink business cards. As you scroll down here, people with 0 Ink cards had about an 87% chance of getting approved for their first card. Those with 1 currently open, so this is where I actually fell, with chances of getting approved for a second card was sitting around 68%. And with these additional data points, you can see that the more and more ink cards that you actually have less and less of a chance of actually getting approved for additional cards. So between Chase tightening up approvals and the current state of my own credit report and credit score, I knew that going into this application and definitely throughout the rest of this year, it's going to be tougher and tougher for me to actually get approved from Chase. I had the pleasure of sitting down and telling Anthony Venture my entire experience and story dealing with Chase reconsideration, and we talked a lot about this Doctor of Credit article that I just mentioned. I want to give a huge shout out to Anthony for not only having me over on his channel, but also just for all the help that he's given me, not only in the credit card game, but also on the YouTube stuff. Again, thank you so much, Anthony, for the privilege of sitting down and chatting with you on this topic. Hopefully by sharing my story and my experience with Chase reconsideration that you can pick up some helpful tips and tricks along the way. And if you do find any useful information or just are entertained by our conversation, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel. I really would appreciate it. So sit back, relax, enjoy the conversation with the one and only, the captain of the ink train, Mr. Anthony Venture.
So I wanted to ask you because so you had a pretty inspiring story, I thought, for some people. So yesterday you messaged in Joe Britto's Discord. You said, "Hey, I was denied for this Chase Ink Preferred." So we'll talk about exactly why you wanted that card and everything like that. But then you said after calling a few different times to Recon, going in person, do all these things, you were able to get it overturned, and now you have an approval after like a lot of weird questioning, a lot of weird calls. So I wanted to get into that whole experience. So. Oh, wow.
So I did a full in-depth breakdown in that video. Plan on a watch me apply. Super excited, got this new card. Look at all the ways I'm planning on using it. Went through 10-15 minutes of all the value that I could get out of the card, and then it's on there on the tail end of that video. I got an outright denial.
So okay, you get hit with that. It's a denial, like, oh my god, All right. So what's the first thing on your mind when you get hit with that, denial? What are you thinking? What's going through your head?
What am I going to do now? Because I've got a lot of spend upcoming and I can
Oh
hit
no. Mhm.
multiple sign up bonuses, but that was my initial thought is I have a lot of spend, like I said, for my wedding and even just sort of in 2-player mode with my fiance. We
Mm.
live, near a major city, so things are very expensive. We wouldn't struggle to hit really any sign up bonus outside of
Mm.
things like the business platinum or something like that. That's crazy. After that kind of sunk in that I was denied,
Mm.
I was sort of panicking internally a little bit because I have a roadmap that I built out. I've got a separate video on that as well, where I'm with my wedding spend. I know that my strategy is risky. I'm applying for a lot of cards, basically as
Mm.
many as I can get approved for. So with this instant denial that I got, I was essentially just
Mm.
thinking, I'm only at 424, but am I just locked out of Chase cards, for the next year or until my 524 status starts to come down? I had no idea. And so
Mm.
I scrapped my whole roadmap, built a new one. That was like, let me relax for a second. Hit up you on Discord, and you gave me some great advice. And I made my first few calls to Recon, no luck, but I did eventually, after a few different tries, get approved, which I'm sure we'll get into detail on.
And it's funny because I prepared this because I think it's a great GIF, and I think it works out perfectly. I sent it to you yesterday. Basically, what I usually advise, and what everyone, obviously everybody advises, and I've done myself, is to just pick up the phone and start dialing. Oh, I didn't realize it'll go off so fast. But if if you ever get denied, for really for any credit card, but mostly like a lot of these Chase cards, you could take the lose. You could, take the, you lost, you didn't get it, but you also could pick up the phone and start dialing, the hookah method, right? Hang up and call again. So that's what you did, right? So can you kind of walk us through that first call? So I think this was your first time ever calling a reconsideration line, right? So like, what was that?
Yes.
Maybe what was that experience like for you? Just like calling up and be like, hey, I got denied. Can you like make it an approval, or what's your script going into it?
I mean, yeah, that was basically it. Rewind quickly to the Ink Unlimited. That was
Mm,
basically a different end screen with the application that I got
mm,
to. It was something like, we'll contact you in 7 to 10 days. This Ink Preferred was just like, you're not getting this card. So with the Ink Unlimited, I just gave it some time. Eventually connected with someone. They tried to send me a letter I never got. They just wanted like proof of address or something.
mm,
But with
mm,
this one, I knew right away I'd have to call Recon. So I've got a couple different little side hustles that I'm doing. However, both I did apply for both of these cards under the same sole proprietorship, so under my social security number. My script was essentially just explaining the difference between the businesses, how the Ink Preferred with the travel, and even the marketing and internet ad spending category,
mm,
how both of those work perfectly for this separate business. This is the main reason I want the card. I want to separate these expenses. I
mm,
selected different business type for both on the applications. The first lady I spoke to, this was like, I think I did it the day after I got declined. She was super sweet, and I don't want to say anything bad about her. I don't know. When I was talking about the Ink Preferred, I guess I'll just say I don't think she really knew much about that card or,
mm,
Chase's ecosystem in general. But anyway, like I said, very nice. Listened to me, in my 5 minute spiel. And then
mm,
she put me on hold. She didn't really ask me any questions. She did clarify, asked me basically if I knew about Chase's 524 rule, which of course I
mm,
did. She said, it appears that you are at 524. That was probably the reason for the instant denial.
mm,
So explained, on the credit report, that the MX Gold card, which I have, that is an authorized user card. That's under my fiance's account. So she said, okay, no problem. Let me go check. Typical, what is it, 5 minute on hold? You kind of sitting there just tapping your foot, kind of waiting, sweating it out. And again, she came back on super sweet, like, so sorry. Unfortunately, we were not able to approve you. And she gave me a few different reasons that I actually have written down. And these actually are different each of the times that I went
mm,
and spoke to reconsideration. So I think this is interesting. The number of recently opened accounts on my report, the business structure. I think that one's probably because this was a different business structure, but under SSN. So that was a red flag for them. And
mm,
then the insufficient business deposit relationship with us. I thought that one was really interesting. I almost kind of went right back into my spiel, like, I'm really trying to separate the expenses, blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
She handled it very professionally. I was like, look, at this time, you're just not going to get approved. I definitely planned on calling Recon again after that. I just wanted to give it a few days, see if anything changed with my credit report or anything like that.
Mhm. I wanted to ask too, before we move on to the next call, because one thing that's really good that you mentioned that people should know about is that, yes, as per at the back end with a lot of these reps, they can see all of your open and active accounts, whether it be yours or if you're an authorized user on somebody else's account. So like, if I don't know, if you're on like in your case, the Amex Gold's and AU under, you said it's under your fiance. Like
Yes,
it's her
correct.
Amex Gold. Yeah. So in that case, on their end, it just looks like you have 5 cards that have been opened. And if it's within the last couple of years, they'll say, you have 5 open accounts, 524 rule, all these different things in the last 2 years. I just wanted to mention that because that's good. And I think that probably plays a role into your next calls, right?
For sure. Yeah. And honestly, I knew that going in. Like, I was fully
Hmm.
expecting, I wasn't expecting to get denied outright. I was expecting same thing as the Ink Unlimited, we'll
Hmm.
contact you asking for more information. I was fully prepared for them to say, you're at 524. I was fully prepared to call Recon and just explain that authorized user situation. But yeah, I think moving forward over these next few Recon calls, I think keep in mind that I did tell the very first person who was very nice, but didn't may not have marked that down correctly, I guess I'll say,
Uh,
in my credit profile. So second call was the exact opposite. Yeah, I would use the word rude. Like I
oh
said, I
wow.
waited a few days. But basically the tone of the call was, why the hell are you calling me again? You just called us 2 days ago and we already said no. So same thing. Not that I had a script in front of me, but just read off, read off my spiel, my script, explained
Mhm.
the situation again. This woman was having none of it. Didn't even want to hear it. Felt like I was wasting her time. That one was really quick. Like I said, she didn't ask me. I don't recall her asking me a single question. I explained the situation. She put me on hold. That on hold was like 2 minutes. She came right back and
Yeah.
said, absolutely not. So
Ugh.
while it was frustrating for sure, I think the interesting thing about that one is she gave me some different reasons. Some of the different bullet points that she gave were like, I think the only one that was the same as the first time was the number of recently opened accounts. Or you have recently opened a Chase business card. So I don't
Mm,
know if that's new. Obviously, I'm new to the whole
mm,
credit card game. First time even calling Recon on this type of stuff, but I don't know if that's like a new thing that they're looking at to what we were talking about before we hopped on with the Doctor of Credit article with some of those data points. The number of Chase business cards that you have, but definitely they're obviously from my situation and my experience, they're looking at the number that you've opened recently as well. At the end, again, I was shut down straight away. I did sort of ask her kind of point blank. I was like, I've explained my situation. Is there anything that you could do to, I think you realize that this card makes perfect sense for me, given the nature of my business that I'm applying for. Is there anything, any type of advice that you could give me? I think she said something along the lines of, I'm not authorized to give advice or something like that. But what I would say is that any updated information on future applications, whether that be total income or business expenses or business revenue, would be taken into consideration on
mm,
that next application. She kind of
mm,
said it in a really deliberate way, kind of like pointing like maybe try increasing the amount of expenses that you're going to put it. It was
mm.
really telling almost kind of the way she said it.
And then so that's the second call. So you're kind of a little more demoralized because you get less time on the call. So we've all been there where they're just like, no, you can't. Like
Yep.
in a couple minutes, it's done. And some of them are very nice. But then you did your third call. Now the third call is typically where I found people give up. That's usually the one where they'll kind of stop and say, it's just not worth it anymore. And it's surprising how many people can get past three and then they'll actually get overturned. I think Josh Gable got it on his fifth, or and somebody got it on their seventh recently. I forgot what it was. So a lot of times it just depends on the rep you get. Like your first one was really nice, maybe not that knowledgeable. Second one is a little more rude and blunt. But what about the third call? What happened differently on this one that led to the approval?
I was in that mind frame of let me give it one more shot here. Let me see if I can go into a Chase branch and see if that changes anything to have, a rep speaking on my behalf on a reconsideration call. Maybe that would help. And went in there, like a beaten puppy dog. I had the puppy eyes, like, please help me. Again, I think it was perfectly justified for me to want this card.
Yeah.
Did I need to put on that much of a scene? And is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. But use all the tools at your disposal.
Yeah.
So I wasn't lying by any means. The woman was a little short with me and all that. Maybe I exaggerated that a bit. Didn't say anything that would get her in trouble or anything like that. The guy was super nice. He tried to sell me on, business platinum checking and savings account where I need hundreds of thousands of dollars and a personal checking and savings account. I kind of, again, the way that I've been giving my spiel, I let him go through his and I said, I appreciate that. Is there information online? I'll definitely take a look in the future. So he, after that, he took down
Great.
my information, basically called up Recon on my behalf with me sitting right there. Same thing, basically explained the same situation that I've been telling the reconsideration reps. And he was put on hold as well, only a couple of minutes, and came back. And I believe the reasons were the exact same reasons that the woman that I had spoke to earlier that day gave.
Mm,
It was the number of Chase business cards recently opened.
mm,
And again, the same thing came up that came up before on that second call with like basically chasing, we've extended enough credit to you across your personal and business cards at this time.
mm,
Given that you're applying as a sole prop with your SSN, they sort of think about that, which I thought was interesting as sort of just a combined pool of credit and not
mm,
actually separate credit accounts between business and personal because I was applying as a sole prop. So that was
yeah,
sort of the general tone and how I left it at the Chase branch. And then again, going back to that second call, that felt like kind of the main sticking point was
mm.
we've extended enough credit to you at this time. More than welcome to reapply in the future.
Isn't it funny when you're in, because I've done that too last year when or yeah, maybe 2 years ago when I got denied for my first ink card ever. I was like, yeah, let's go physically in branch, and it was just funny because like even they're not immune to being put on hold during
Yeah.
recon. Even they have to sit there and then they talk to you real, like yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yep.
It's just funny, and then it's funny because my guy was like, what business is this for? And then he would go back here and be like, oh, it's for this business. He's like, what's your spend? Okay, so I thought that was funny. Okay, so you actually got three. So I didn't realize I got the timeline wrong. So you actually three separate recon transactions, three separate times
Yeah.
you kind of called into recon. Okay, so then what happened? So then the fourth one, what was it? What happened then? So what happened on the fourth one?
Like I said, I thought I was done after I
Yeah.
called and spoke to the woman and then went to the Chase branch same day. I got a letter. The bullet points on that one are the reasons where, you have too many active accounts, too much available credit. And again, the same one popped up again. The new Chase business card recently opened.
Yeah.
So after I felt at that point, to what we were mentioning before, I had tried 3 times. I tried everything. I was kind of ready to give up, if I'm being honest. And
Mm-hmm.
again, that was when I went and kind of remade my roadmap. Like I highly doubt I'm going to get approved for a Chase card anytime soon. Definitely not in the next 30 days, maybe even 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
So I was fully ready to give up. So this was on, I believe I did this on the 10th of February was when all this was happening. So fast forward from then to literally Monday, at the time of recording this video of this week. So just a couple of days ago, I went into my Chase account, my Chase for Business account, and logged in just to pay off my cards, every couple of weeks like I normally do. And I noticed on my Chase Ink Unlimited card that my credit limit had went up from 5,000 to 9,000. So it basically doubled.
Hmm.
And my first thought was, what the hell? How is this possible? They just told me multiple times that I have too much credit extended to me. Chase is not going to give me any more credit at this time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, my initial thought was, a little frustration. And then I sort of shifted my thinking to, okay, how can I maybe frame this on another reconsideration call? Let me give it one more
Hmm.
shot.
Hmm.
So going into that call, I gave a sort of shortened spiel that I'd been giving to the recon reps about different businesses, different type of expenses, love the multipliers on this card. The second part that I was giving this fourth recon call rep was, I recently was told in my last 2 reconsiderations that I have too much available credit and Chase is not comfortable with extending me any more credit this time. But what the hell? You guys just basically doubled my credit limit after telling me I wouldn't get
Hmm.
any more credit. You guys aren't comfortable with it. So what's the deal here, basically?
Yeah.
So after I explained that to him, he put me on a brief hold. This one was pretty quick. I felt pretty confident going into this one. The guy I spoke to was super nice, sounded really knowledgeable, was, asking me questions, not really, about recon itself, but just was kind of just curious about what was happening on my previous reconsideration calls.
Hmm.
So after that brief hold, he came back, and this is when the interrogation question started. I have legitimate businesses, so I wasn't nervous at all, but you're still trying to make sure you're answering things the right way, and you're kind of on edge a bit. But what I will say, once he started diving into some of these questions, I got more and more confident that I would hopefully get approved.
Hmm. Wow. What was some of those questions like that he was asking you?
Yeah, so I actually took diligent notes on this whole process. And I believe I have everything written down that he had asked me. So the first one was about the authorized user card. So,
Hmm.
like I said, going all the way back to the first recon call, I had already explained this, thought I was good on that front. Chase 524 shouldn't be an issue. He asked 2 or 3 questions about that authorized user card. He said, so I see there's an authorized user card. He asked me something along the lines of, are you the one who's financially responsible for paying this card off? Are you the one who logs into and manages this account? Both of which I answered no. These are my fiance's account. She's responsible for paying them off. The next question that he asked me was about my annual income, just to confirm how much I listed on the application. It was sort of like a quiz question, like, let's see if he
Yeah.
remembers what he listed on his application. Again, I didn't lie on the application, so I knew right away. And he did ask me to what percentage of my income every single year is from my full time job on a W 2 versus some of these different side businesses.
Hmm.
So once he asked me that, asked me about my housing situation, if we buy or rent, how much that rent is every single month, and what's my financial burden. Am I paying all that rent myself? To which I
Mm,
answered, no, we split it every single month. Then he asked me a couple different questions about both of the businesses. Like I said, with the Inc. Unlimited, it's for a separate business than why I was applying for the Inc. Preferred. So he asked me 2 or 3 questions about what the business structure for the Inc. Unlimited card looks like, what's my
mm,
spending on that card. I don't know if he was looking at my application on that one. But again, I don't lie on my application. So I knew the numbers off the top of my head, but I was like, again, it felt like he was sort of quizzing me on what I
yeah.
put on the Inc. Unlimited application. Then same thing for the Inc. Preferred. Yeah. So after I got through explaining the business structure, he asked me to like which specific business type I was listing for the Inc. Preferred application. Like it got really granular with the type of
Mm,
questions he was asking, basically asking me about every single text box that you see in the
yep.
application itself.
Yep.
So once I got through all that, again, I also kind of explained to him too that I, just sort of landed a deal with the Inc. Preferred card business, we'll call it, where I actually expect even more revenue and more profit and in turn more expenses every month. So I think
Mm.
he really liked hearing that. So after that, put me on hold for this was a long one. This it felt like a half an hour. It was probably like 5 minutes. Like I said, once he put me on hold again, I was fairly confident on this one. I hadn't got to this interrogation style with any of the other calls. So I felt like I was actually making progress. Came back on, I think, like I'm doing now. I'm talking way too much to him. So basically came back on and was like, all right, we got you approved. Have a good day. Thank you for being Chase customer, and hung up. You'll be there in 5 to 7 days. Yeah. Yeah. So
Wow.
it was really weird. He was super nice. And then I don't know. I felt like he like rushed me off the call at the end, like, all right, we'll just approve you. Like, we're sick of hearing from you. Here you go.
Yeah.
Here's your card. It'll be there in a week.
Wow, that's amazing though. That's amazing. Man, through the calls, through the in person, giving up, the retribution, calling, getting interrogated. I mean, you went through a whole movie with this card. So that's amazing. And what was the credit limit on it?
So I think I got approved for 4,000 on the Ink
Oh
Preferred.
wow. Wow.
Yep.
And they didn't even ask you to like move the credit limit from like the ink over to the one to get approved?
No, and like I said,
Huh.
I thought it was so weird that they increased my credit limit. And then I think again, kind of using that as like a tool to like, you guys clearly what you told me before isn't correct. So clearly you think I need more credit. So I would much rather I said this point blank. I was like, I would have much rather you guys approve me for this card than give me almost double the amount of credit on my current Ink Unlimited. Like
Mm.
I just didn't really see how that makes sense. I still don't, quite frankly. But yeah, it was definitely interesting. And one other thing I failed to mention was I actually on this fourth call, so right before I got approved, I called into Recon, spoke to a gentleman. I explained the situation. Can I get transferred to reconsideration? My credit limit
Mm.
just went up. They told me I didn't need any more credit. So what's going on? Can you reconsider me one more time? The first guy I talked to actually told me no. He was
Oh,
like,
really?
no, we're going to need a new application with a new denial in order for us to even reconsider this again. So I like literally did that look that you just gave right there. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
So,
all right, thank you. Have a good day. Hung up and then called back right
oh,
away.
so once again, pick up the phone and start
Pick up the
dialing,
phone.
right?
Yep,
That's amazing.
exactly.
I think it's a great story, and that's why I wanted you to come on today because I was like, so many people would have given up, and it just goes to show that it really, most of the time, whatever they say on the phone really doesn't matter. All that matters is you just get a different rep, the right rep that's going to be like that guy who interrogates, and he says, okay, 5 to 7 days. So that's freaking awesome, man. Congratulations on that approval.
So there you have it, folks. After 4 different attempts, both in person and over the phone, I was finally approved for that Chase Ink Preferred card. And especially now more than ever, we are looking to book our honeymoon very, very soon. So the sign up bonus on the card plus the 3x back on travel will set us up very well in terms of our Chase UR points, which we do plan to transfer to Hyatt. And one more time, I do want to give a huge shout out again to Anthony for having me over on his channel. I really appreciated it, and I had a ton of fun sitting down and chatting with him. And if you want to check out the video that he posted on this topic in our conversation as well, I'll leave a link down below. So hopefully you got some value out of our conversation and my own experience with Chase Reconsideration here in 2025. Things have definitely gotten a lot tougher to get approved for more and more ink cards, but I think hopefully you guys were able to pick up on some useful information or just some tips and tricks that can help you turn your denials into approvals. And if you want to see a separate video on how I use that Ink Unlimited in my current credit card strategy, make sure you check out this video next. Or if you're just looking for more content on my own perspective in this whole credit card game, make sure you check out this video instead. Thank you as always for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.